Cubaan suara 1 2 3 testing 1 2 3 testing cubaan suara. Hari ini saya akan buat VO mengenai tajuk Hey 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 hey.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Ya Amat Mohamed Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Samsuri bin Mokhtar, Menteri Besar Terengganu, Yang Berhormat Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, Menteri Komunikasi dan Multimedia, merangkap pengusi Jawatankuasa Induk sambutan Hari Kebangsaan dan Hari Malaysia 2021, Yang Amat Berhormat Timbalan Perdana Menteri dan Jemaah Menteri, Ahli Majlis Mesyuarat Kerajaan Negeri Terengganu, seluruh rakyat Malaysia yang saya kasihi sekalian. Apa khabar semua? Saya doakan saudara dan saudari berada dalam keadaan sihat walafiat. Alhamdulillah, syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala kerana dengan izin dan limpah kurnia-Nya kita dapat bersama-sama menjayakan pelancaran kempen Bulan Kebangsaan dan Kibar Jalur Gemilang 2021 pada hari yang berbahagia ini. Sambutan Hari Kebangsaan dan Hari Malaysia pada tahun ini masih mengekalkan tema yang sama seperti tahun lepas, iaitu Malaysia Prihatin. Dan ini adalah seiring dengan iltizam dan aspirasi berterusan Kerajaan Perikatan Nasional dalam menyemai rasa cinta semua rakyat kepada negara selain menyemarakkan semangat kebersamaan dalam kalangan rakyat ketika kita masih memerangi pandemik COVID-19 semenjak lebih setahun yang lalu. Saya sedar bahawa kita masih berada dalam tempoh yang agak mencabar susulan wabak COVID-19. Namun saya yakin bahawa saudara dan saudari mempunyai semangat cintakan negara yang tinggi dan dapat mengambil iktibar dan aspirasi daripada kepentingan meraihkan bulan bersejarah ini yang menyaksikan negara kita mencapai kemerdekaan. Kita telah dilahirkan di tanah air ini dan menjadi sebahagian warga negara yang bersumpah setia untuk mempertahankannya sehingga akhir hayat kita. Semangat juang tinggi pemimpin dan nenek moyang kita dalam menuntut kemerdekaan negara yang penuh ranjau dan berliku perlulah dijadikan iktibar dan memberi inspirasi kepada kita semua. Dan kali ini kita sedang berperang dengan musuh yang sukar dilihat dan lebih berbahaya. Saya berdoa agar saudara dan saudari akan terus cekal dan dikurniakan kekuatan dalam usaha kita untuk menamatkan wabak COVID-19 ini. Saudara dan saudari yang saya kasihi sekalian, Jalur Gemilang adalah lambang negara yang mampu membangkitkan semangat patriotisme dalam hati setiap rakyat Malaysia yang mencetuskan solidariti dalam mendepani apa jua cabaran yang mendatang. Saya berharap kita dapat bersama-sama menterjemahkan bentuk solidariti ini dengan mengibar megah Jalur Gemilang sebagai tanda kita sentiasa bersatu padu dalam melawan pandemik COVID-19 ini. Saya juga yakin bahawa setelah 64 tahun negara menikmati kebebasan dan kemerdekaan, amalan mengibar Jalur Gemilang ini sentiasa dibudayakan dalam kehidupan seharian saudara dan saudari tanpa rasa malu dan janggal. Saya berharap agar seluruh rakyat Malaysia, daripada penjawat awam di kementerian dan agensi, warga sektor swasta dan sesiapa juga akan menyahut seruan kerajaan dengan mengibarkan Jalur Gemilang dengan penuh rasa bangga, tertib dan rasa hormat. Saya juga berharap agar saudara dan saudari mengibarkan Jalur Gemilang di kediaman ataupun kenderaan masing-masing. Berilah kita bersama-sama melakukannya demi menzahirkan rasa cinta terhadap negara, diiringi doa dan harapan agar negara akan segera pulih daripada wabak COVID-19 dan kita dapat kembali ke kehidupan normal dan mengecapi kemakmuran bersama. Saya percaya melalui semangat cintakan negara yang sentiasa diperteguhkan, kita akan dapat mengekalkan kehidupan yang harmoni, saling mengasihi dan bersatu hati dalam kalangan rakyat meskipun berlainan kaum, agama dan latar belakang. Akhir kata, dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, saya dengan ini melancarkan program Bulan Kebangsaan dan Kibar Jalur Gemilang 2021. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Roll camera.
Boleh?
Kat sekejap ni. Jom. Bagi dulu sikit nampak. Okay. Cut. Roll camera.
Boleh?
Cut. Okay.
Ya, demikian tadi satu ucapan daripada Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kita mengenai ucapan mengenai Hari Kebangsaan pada tahun ini. Ya, marilah kita sama-sama kita saksikan persembahan seterusnya selepas ini. Ya, demikian tadi ucapan daripada Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kita Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, ucapan mengenai jalur gemilang. Ya, kita saksikan seterusnya persembahan daripada kumpulan choir negara ini. Silakan. Ya, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera dan selamat petang. Sekian tadi daripada ucapan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kita Tuan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. Ya, sekian. Ya, tadi saya dapat tinggi, sekarang dapat rendah. Memang biol benda ni. Dah nak rosak dah ni mixer ni. Ya, sekarang kita tak dapat dah 12. Tak dapat dah 12. Ha, ni baru dapat sikit. Dapat sikit. Dapat sikit. Ha, dapat tak? Dapat tak? Ha, nampak tak? Nampak tak? Nampak tak kicking dia? Cubaan lagi sekali untuk kita memastikan apa yang rosaknya pada bilik VO2 ini. Adakah ia berpunca daripada mixer itu sendiri ataupun daripada mic dan kabel mic. Okay, terima kasih.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, audio test, testing.
Ku teguh berdiri, tiada lagi ragu atau gentar. Ku terus berani melangkah maju, terus ke hadapan. Satu impian nyawaku pertaruhkan. Genggaman tanganmu, semangatku, oh terus membara. Janjiku padamu, harapanku ingin ku laksanakan.
Joining us on Talk to Terrence, and if you remember that song, then you remember the spirit that was contained within that song, so you know that we're on our trail towards the 31st of August and our MERDEKA month has begun. Thank you, Jazz, for that. It's another classic by you, bro. And he's got something up his sleeve, so don't go anywhere because you want to hear his final number in his own version, another instant viral classic by Just Jazz. So, let's get started. What are we talking about today? I'm sure you're interested to find out. See, independence did not come to Malaysia in the form of violence, nor did it take a very ugly revolution to achieve our Independence Day. It was something that was stoked organically from the ground up, and it all began with media. That's right, traditional legacy media. This all began at the grassroots level, and people who were able to read, write, and communicate well were instrumental in pushing the idea of an independent nation forward through the masses. So today we're going to explore the importance of media not only in achieving our independence, but maintaining it through patriotism. I know it's a word that sometimes we forget because, of course, social media has opened up borders, opened up our minds, and made us feel like a global citizen in more ways than one. But that nationalistic pride, that's something that we all cherish, I believe, because we're all sons and daughters of this earth, and we're all sons and daughters of this country. So join us as we explore our patriotic roots. Jazz provides the melody. And for some reason, I smell some tea. Are the English back? What is that I smell?
Hi.
It is tea. Yes, I was right. My nose did not do me wrong. You're Ying, right?
Yes,
And I understand that you're the tea expert in the house today. So talk to us about tea because we're starting the show. I want to know what's the best kind of tea to start a morning on a Sunday.
Okay, for morning, I would suggest Earl Grey tea or English breakfast. All of this is for flavored tea.
Flavored tea?
Yes.
So how come you're such an expert on tea? What do you do here at the hotel?
I'm actually having my internship. Yeah, I'm studying diploma in hotel management and having my internship in Le Quadrille Hotel.
Right. So for someone like Jazz who works late nights, right, and I do too, what's a good after party tea?
Okay, for good after party tea is lemongrass and green tea. This one is it will mix with lemongrass and also green tea. It gives you a refreshing feelings.
Refreshing feeling to mask any other feelings that you've had before that and to clear your throat. So, Jazz, you know, that's great for the vocal cords right there. Lemon. Yeah. So, while she goes and makes us the tea, I also want to throw a shout out to everyone who's interested in doing similar courses to what you're undertaking right now. How can they find out more about Le Quadrille's internship program?
They can actually contact our assistant front office manager, yes. Actually, if for Le Quadrille Hotel, the suggestion is from my faculty. Yes, this hotel is under UCSI also, so I'm just having decision of my lecturer.
Nice. So it's a highly recommended place to do your internship, and if you're in the hotel management field, it's definitely going to be on top of your list. Thank you so much, Ying. We're going to enjoy that tea shortly, and we'll be back with more Talk to Terrence. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to Talk to Terrence. Thank you for staying with us. And as we promised, we're going to get into conversation about media and its role in independence and also patriotism thereafter. But how has media evolved to embrace patriotism and take us on this independent journey of self-editing? We have only one man that can answer that question. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Johnson. Woo! You came very prepared today, my friend. So what gadgets have you got that can help us embrace this spirit of independence? Because I know, back in the day, editing was so complicated, right? We were so dependent on tons of stuff. In fact, we still are. If you are a consumer of a certain iOS platform, you are not independent. Very dependent. So talk to us about the independence of media today as you see it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Terrence. So basically, I mean, we like to travel, right? We like to capture images and videos and things like that. And as you said just now, right, the whole dependency on a hardware or a software or even skill sets to do editing and stuff like that, that one sort of like, cage us in, right? So these days, what I'm going to introduce today is actually these 360 cameras, okay? Because end of the day, 360 camera, you don't need to purposely point and shoot, okay, to shoot the object that you want, right? Like these days, I go traveling, right? Okay, like 2 months ago, I was in Philippines, right? I went alone and stuff like that. I went hiking, and then just imagine I'm going hiking or swimming, and I have to do all this. One, I'm not natural, right? And second is also sometimes when I'm shooting there and the action is happening here, we missed it, right? With the 360 camera, I have my independence. I just put it up like that, record it, leave it, right? And now, when I post-process it, which is very easy using the software, I can just point where I want to show people, I can include myself, I can zoom out to show the whole world, okay, just like this video right here, right now, okay? And even today, coming into the hotel, I can make it look like a first-person shooter, like in a game, right? Yeah.
You have the camera at the back of you, and it's
just hold it like that, just hold it.
And the best part is you can actually get rid of the stick.
Oh, yeah. Automatically, the software takes it away without me doing anything, right?
So that's independence. I think that completely embodies the spirit of independence. And it's a great tool to have as you go out on one of those parades, because we've missed the parades. I don't know if you have, but it's been a while since we had a full-blown MERDEKA style parade with as many people as possible fit into an area. So as you go out to celebrate independence this time around, I know you're going to want to bring gear like this to help you capture as much as you can with as little as possible. But to help us get through a morning on a Sunday, I think some tea is excellent. So we're going to have some tea served up, Johnson. We've got Ying, who's recommended some of her favorites and her personal choices to make our day that more, wow, aromatic. Thank you, Ying. Ooh. So let's have a cup for, okay, we'll serve the host first. Damn, perks of the job. Thank you very much, Ying. So which one is mine? Lemongrass will go to my man Jazz. I will grab the peppermint, and that means Earl Grey will go to Johnson.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, classic and traditional. Nice, thank you. Oh, I love the color.
So as Ying brings that final cup of tea to our man Jazz with the music there, I want to talk to you a little bit about how easy it is to acquire a device like this in the market today.
These days, very easy. With the power of internet, e-commerce, right? You can just go online these days into any of the e-commerce store.
You got any recommendations?
Well, Lazada, okay, actually there's one. I got mine from Kaseh store. It's just in Ampang. Okay, very friendly bunch of people. You can physically go to the store as well. They'll recommend you, like for example, the basic unit, just the camera itself, or with the accessories. A lot of accessories actually. You have this one, there's also a bullet time 360 thingy. You have also the bicycle mount, which I really love because when I go cycling, or those of you who loves like motorcycling, right? You can actually mount it behind your motorcycle like this, okay? And when you go around, right, it records you just like a drone. Oh, very nice view. Yeah, very creative. So all these type of things, right, unleashes a lot of creativity from people, okay? And even in a professional usage as well, because for example, interviews like this, okay? Those days, let's say to capture both of us, it's either very boring shot, right? Three of us, you have to put the camera very far to take a wide shot.
Hello, our cameraman worked very hard to get that shot.
Oh, yeah, but you see here, we have so many cameras, right? But let's say you are the one shooting an interview yourself.
Okay.
These days, you just hold one of these, just shoot. Then after that, you can always edit. Okay, zoom in, zoom out. Okay, got something in your teeth or something like that. Yeah, you can do that.
That's very personal.
Yeah.
Extremely up close and personal with Terrence, I guess that would be the show.
Yeah.
And this device does it all for you. How much are we talking about in terms of budget?
Okay, so I have two models here, two different brands, okay? This one is close to 3K, this one is around 2K, okay? But let me share you a secret as well, okay? Today, you can immediately earn some money for yourself.
Wow.
Okay? Because with a little bit of skill, okay? Because this one, you can capture 360 pictures, you can capture 360 videos, right? Where have you seen 360 pictures and videos before? Isn't it on Google Map, Street View,
Exactly.
right? So, once you get yourself this one, high definition one, okay, get yourself registered into Google to become their Street View or 360, capturer, okay? Once you pass the certification or some very basic tests, right? Now they will be able to assign you jobs.
Wow.
And I tell you, one job is enough to pay for your device.
And if that job comes with embedded music, I think, Jazz, you can make a lot of money on that. Just need to register, huh? So you will not only get 360 view, you will get 360 view with a built-in soundtrack.
That's actually a very good idea.
1%, huh?
Sounds good, yeah.
I'm churning out ideas left, right, center here. Johnson, can you also talk to us a little bit about your own thoughts of Independence Day? It's coming up at the end of the month. How's your place in the country? How do you feel about Malaysia at this point in time?
Okay, I think that's the reason why I'm still here. Okay, because I grew up in Malaysia, of course, right? I'm from Kebangsaan School. I'm even from vocational school, right? And I totally believe in the culture we have over here. There's a lot more to be done, of course, in terms of education, in terms of upbringing. That's why, for me, I'm staying back, educating people, sharing as much as I can so that we can build up our nation and then, go chase over the big guys, right? Chase after the big guys. So definitely, we out here, okay, Muhibah, work together, collaborating, sharing with one another. And I think for viewers out there today, just go out, talk to your neighbors. That's a good start, right?
It's a great start. Build that spirit up again. If you believe we've lost some of it in the pandemic, because we weren't actually face-to-face with a lot of people, I think reconnecting is very important in helping to inculcate that muhibahness that we sort of lost in the pandemic a little bit because we were not very personal. And in fact, if you met people during that time where everyone was walking around with masks, you probably don't recognize them.
Yeah, actually, my own neighbor, I was like, then it was like, hey, Johnson. I was like, who is that? Auntie lah. Oh, okay, auntie.
Unless you're like me with a very, standout head. So that kind of helped.
We met during
the
pandemic.
We totally did. Over pineapple juice or something like that. So there is a lot to be desired in terms of bringing people back together, and I think we need to do our part. Johnson, your final word on how pictures can help bring people together through the new media and where you see the future going.
Oh, of course. End of the day, there's so much to be shared and captured outside, right? Because end of the day, even Malaysians, okay, we are not really familiar with some other cultures out there as well. So with all this technology, go out and capture, share on your Instagram or any of the social media, because end of the day, you will sort of like teach another person or share with another person someone else's culture, okay? It's like recently, I was just scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, and I learned about like Orang Asli, which is very near to us. But I didn't know that it's just in Pulau Keri kind of thing, right? And then, I went over and visit and I learned so much. Yeah.
You go. Johnson is one of those people that really embody the Jalur Gemilang. You bleed yellow, red, white, and also blue. It's a very characteristic of this individual I've known for a very long time. So that's why we have him back on the show every now and then. So thank you very much, Johnson. Your pictures are inspiring. You can check him out on all his social platforms, and you can see the kind of visuals that he's brought to life with very little time spent learning about it. So Johnson is saying through his pictures, if I can do it, you can too. But I know this guy is very humble. So you check out his lightning bolt on KLCC.
Oh, yeah.
That's a patriotic shot. That's a patriotic shot if I ever saw one. And I think you fetched a pretty penny for that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And not only that, I was connected to So Wai Ching as well because of that picture.
There you go.
And
Beautiful, beautiful shot of our KLCC. Thank you, Johnson, for being in conversation with us. And also, Johnson's visuals you can see at the end of the show, and some of his most inspiring work will be our TikTok finale. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in conversation with our guests in the studio, as up next, we go back in time. We talk about how media has helped build this country and where media is going to take it moving forward. We'll be back on Talk to Terrence. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Talk to Terrence. I can see why the English enjoyed their spot of tea. It's really refreshing. And we have an expert in the house who's going to help our guests keep refreshed with tea throughout this episode. So let's get into the subject of conversation today, media and MERDEKA, and how media has helped inspire independence in this country, and also how it is going to aspire to move it forward. I have joining me first, Ahmad Faisal Muhammad FIAH, Pensyarakanan Kewartawanan or Journalism with the Faculty of Communications and Media Studies, UITM. Welcome, sir.
Hi,
How are you doing?
Hi,
Thank you for
fine.
joining us.
Great to see you.
Please have a seat.
Yeah,
We'll have
thank
some tea for you shortly.
Wow.
And it is truly a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, me too.
So, as we started off talking about media, because it's Independence Month,
Yeah.
we want to start at the very beginning of how early media, legacy media, inspired people in the grassroots to actually start thinking about independence.
Yeah.
Where did it all begin for media in Malaysia?
I believe it is all started way before, maybe starting from 1876 when the foundation of the Jawi Peranakan, and after that we have, for example, Al-Imam in 1906, and before that and after that we have Utusan Melayu in 1929, and I think history written, the journalists, especially the journalists and the writers, contributed so much to the independence. So that is the, I mean, the contribution and also the definition of Merdeka and independence by the media, the original media, and especially the journalists in Malaya or in Malaysia.
One of the best contributions of the English to this country was, of course, tea. So we're going to
Yes.
get you some right now. Thank you very much
Yep.
for keeping all our guests well informed of their favorite tea choices. I believe this is going to be your favorite tea choice. She picked it out, so it's going to be your favorite moving forward.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the different races that existed in Malaya back then.
Yeah.
And how they were inspired through media that was communicating in different languages. How did those different communities, who did not all read and write Jawi at that time,
Okay.
understand the meaning of independence? What mediums were used to communicate to them?
I believe the main language, I mean, we spoke the same language. It is the independence. I think our forefathers, whoever the forefathers were, we fought for the same cause. We fought for the independence. So I think that's the main language spoken those days. So not only, I think that the language barrier is not being a Malay, being a Chinese, or being a Indian, because we are Malaya during that days. Right? Yes, we were known as Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, Federation of Malaya, then the so-called Malaya. So, but we fought for the same cause. So that is the main language, is the Merdeka. Because I believe those people know the hardship, you know, the struggle, and the cause of being freed from colonials. So I think that's the word that united us during that day.
So whether we want to accept it or not, divide and conquer was the strategy of that time and era. It wasn't just along racial lines, but also along state lines. Because we had the non-aligned Malay states, we had the aligned Malay states. negeri-negeri Melayu tidak bersekutu,
Yeah.
negeri-negeri Melayu bersekutu, and
Yeah.
we even had the Strait Settlements. So all these entities had different roles in the British Empire at the end of the day. How did media manage to bridge those gaps and communicate across those state lines to ensure everybody got the message? Because I'm sure there was a different thinking that existed within the populace of these different communities in these different states.
So that was the main role of the journalists. So to bring those people who have different views or maybe different style of struggle in having working towards the same cause. So I think that's the main purpose of journalists. Maybe yes, we had so many fractions, we had so many people working for maybe for their own purpose, but at the end of the day, they fought for the same word, independence. So I think that is more important to talk instead of saying those days. Yes, we know the history. We know this. We came from so many states, so type of states. So I think that the most important part is how the journalists play their role in bringing up the people and working towards the same cause and what we have now.
Who were the icons of that time, and what were the publications that stood tall?
As a journalism lecturer, I would say I think my idol is Tan Sri A. Ahmad Ismail, I would say, and even Rahim Kajai. And before that, we have those people from Al-Imam in 1906. Even I wrote a paper, because I wrote a paper, actually my master thesis, it was my master thesis. I said in my master thesis, Al-Imam was the first group of people who really fought for independence. But until 1941, before the Japanese came to Malaya, so then other people like Rahim Kajai and A. Ahmad Ismail. So I think those people. And also we have some Pak Melan, right? Pak Melan, who else? I think that their contribution is so much to this country.
And there were also some very loud and prominent female voices in journalism.
Oh, of course. But although maybe some people do not consider these people, Tun Fatimah Hashim.
Tun Fatimah Hashim.
Tun Fatimah Hashim was one of them. I mean, she's the greatest in terms of bringing up all those women to fight against, to fight for independence. I think that's so great.
So we've dropped some legendary names
Yeah.
in the column down below. If you're watching
Wow.
us on social media, I think you have a steep learning curve ahead of you because
Yep.
you're of the generation that was born into social media. So you probably did not really go back in time to look at how media itself began here in the country.
Yeah.
Because progressive requires you to just keep moving forward without looking back.
Yep.
But today we're going to look back. So I'm going to round up this table and it's going to fill up with guests who are able to go back in time and also move forward with us. So up next, we have Dr. Manimaran who will join us. He is a PR consultant and also a former media man himself. We'll be back after this on Talk to Terrence. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Talk to Terrence. Thank you for staying with us. We've been in conversation with Encik Ahmad Faisal, who was, of course, talking about the history of media and how it was involved in shaking things up, bringing us closer to independence. Let's move that conversation further along. Joining us, we have Dr. Manimaran Govindasamy, who will be joining us right now on Talk to Terrence. Welcome, Dr. Manimaran. Welcome, sir. Please take a seat.
How are you?
We'll have some tea for you shortly.
Sure, thank you.
And I want to say thank you for joining us first and foremost. We've been talking about the history of media in this country, and it has, of course, come up, the subject of divide and rule and how things were because there were different communities living across different state lines. From your perspective, sir, how did media help move that unity along?
Thanks for the opportunity and nice to meet Dr. Faisal. It's a very interesting when talking about media and the unity and patriotism. Media playing very important role since the day one. Of course, at the beginning, we have 200 years old of history. We can see that there is a various newspapers. Those days, the media landscape is not that complex compared to today's era. Today's era, we have too many media. The numbers are too large. It's growing every day. At the point of time, you have a very limited, few newspapers. No, you have a TV. TV came later, after the journalism, the media era in Malaysia. Then we have a TV later, TV1, 1960s later. So we can see that media playing a very important role in bringing together the community. Because we have every community have their own media, especially newspapers and magazines. Malay, Chinese, Indian, English for the traders and foreigners, colonial expertise. Yeah? So all these media playing their role and bringing this together, the message. Of course, at the beginning, they're talking about their own interest of the interest of their own races. Then when we are coming towards the MERDEKA era, then we come together. There's the importance of the love of the country. We saw that.
Yeah.
Of course, compared to today, people question whether the media play the role or not. Of course, that's why again earlier I go back to the term of complexity. The media become more complex. We have traditional media, mainstream media, then have online media, social media. In online and social media, we have media that is the mainstream, playing the role as the mainstream. Mainstream means they need to play the interest of the country. End of the day, if you take the media in the US or whatever, they will portray the interest of the country.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is something that we used to understand to be true. But before we get further, I want to invite Ying to join us to kindly deliver her personalized tea. For you, sir.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Manimaran.
you
Please
very
enjoy
much.
that cup of tea.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Jamaah Faisal, how's the tea?
Yes, very good.
All right, now, you mentioned something that struck me because you said the media in the US, they normally portray a message of unity and patriotism. But that's not the case today. There are two different types of messages. One coming from the Republican red states, which is that message of patriotism, 4th of July. The other message is a self-deprecating message which comes from the left, which is the party of Joe Biden today. They kind of portraying the many mistakes they made in the past and how America is not such a great country. They have a lot of errors of their ways. So I think there's two narratives, and that has influenced how we as Malaysians also see ourselves. So I see a counter narrative now building from social media platforms, independent media curators. I mentioned you were a PR consultant, but you're more of a media consultant. So how would you manage these two different narratives?
Then you go back to understand what is patriotism. Patriotism is not just what you call we go to war and defend the country when it's in the difficult period. But the patriotism, if you look at the long term, long perspective, we can see everything we need to good for the people, good for us, good for the rakyat, good for the country. Everything. Example, I give you a small example. During COVID, what is our patriotism? Patriotism means we need to educate the people, do the right thing to curb this, what they call the pandemic. Then we are on the road. We have a patriotism to the country. Patriotism country means the nation at large.
Right.
They are in that large perspective, we have the people, the rakyat, the community, one component. We are driving. We respect the law.
Yeah.
There is a patriotism. So if you go back to ask question whether we are playing the role, I think most of the media playing the role. Of course, there are some are not in media,
Right.
which is what I call. That's why earlier I said the micro, the social media. Then they're not a real journalists. They are citizen journalists, and they're playing the role as a citizen journalism. But they know we are from School of Communication, school from the most of the reporters. Majority reporters are from School of Communication. They was taught together the ethics and code of ethics. So that is important. They know what is do and don'ts, what is a good and a bad for the country in terms of patriotism.
Right.
That's why when people always ask the angle of taken by certain newspapers, there's a 5 news value we call news value. We have normally interest, human interest, proximity. Normally people forget another component, the aspiration of the country.
Right.
So to go back to the patriotism and go back to the big picture, do we have the aspiration of the country? What is aspiration? Aspiration of the news value, the angle of aspiration, that means we need to write a news for the betterment of the
Society.
rakyat, the society, the community, and the country.
Yeah.
The code ethics telling the truth.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. The code of ethics that governs and shapes journalistic ideas and also ideations. Not present with citizen journalists who usually utilize social media platforms.
Yeah.
Now, once upon a time, they were secluded in blogs.
Yeah.
And only people who knew they existed, friends and family, would have access. But today, there's such a thing as the public square of social media, which is Twitter.
Yeah.
And it is very much aligned to the left-leaning notions of the US, where it originates. Can you speak to how this has affected our own patriotism in AHMAD, FAISAL? When you look at how your students utilize social media and some of the thoughts that they bring forward, which they have learned from social media.
First of all, I would like to stress, especially I always stress this to my students. Being a journalist, being in a journalism is not only about working. It is a responsibility. And also the media is just not a business, because that is another responsibility. But of course it comes with certain, maybe in terms of profit, and we need to sustain. Okay, that's the basic now. As for the citizen journalists, maybe at one time they were so eager of being the so-called journalists because there was a notion of, the perception towards the journalists so biased,
right?
Biased about something, and we work for the government. Of course, RTM is the government media channel.
The penultimate media.
Yeah, I think, work for the government.
Right.
Of course. But what about the other medias? What about the other mediums and media? So we are not working for the government, but we work together. We work for the rakyat, and at the end of the day, the government and the nation will get the benefits. So I think that's the gist and the core of being in the media and the journalists. But maybe people say that, oh, we are so negative, the journalists. Then comes the so-called citizen journalists. And at the end of the day, do they serve the so-called the basic responsibility of being the journalist? Because we have to be so transparent. So the authenticity, we need to get the information, and we have to spread the information with what we call now the ethics, with ethics. But that's the question. So sometimes this misconception about the journalist and journalism, or even the media among the publics.
We talked about your heroes, your icons.
Okay.
You know, they were all fighting for a cause,
Yeah.
but there were no ethics around it. You know, they were fighting for a cause that was anti-British rule, which is basically anti the colonial power that was occupying Malaysia. And they were galvanizing people towards some sort of unity, and in telling the British, look, we can do this ourselves, we don't need you here.
Yep.
So that revolutionary spirit was instilled by the media. The young people think that they're instilling some kind of revolutionary spirit of their own. Doctor, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, we need to educate I agree with you, there is a phenomena, there is an issue on that perspective. What is important is we need to bring this young group. That's why the media or the authority at large need to bring the people together, giving them the right information, The correct, because education is a lifelong learning process.
Yeah.
We cannot say that, oh, we teach them in school and finish it, they will continue. No. Like again, I go with the analogy that people driving, they get the license from JPJ, end of the day, after 1 year, 2 years, they forgot the right rules. So go back to that perspective. I think we need to, what is it normally we are lack in our country is, we forgot that this is a process, lifelong process, until the end of the people's life. They need to be educated. Whether you're working group, young group, working group, the adults, or those who retired groups. That is, I think, we always forgot. You only go for touch and go system.
Right.
Not the holistic and comprehensive in patriotism.
Okay, fair enough. We will be picking up where we left off. I'll be posing the same question to you, sir, when we come back. But we'll have one final member to round up our panel as we discuss about the role of media in Merdeka and how media will also continue to play its role as we move forward and instill patriotism in Malaysians. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Talk to Terrence. Welcome back to Talk to Terrence. Thank you for staying with us. We're still talking about media and its role in Merdeka, also its role in patriotism as we move forward to celebrate our upcoming Independence Day. So joining me now is a practitioner. He's a senior news editor with the Star News Group. Please help me welcome my next guest, Mr. Philip GOLINGAI. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Please grab a seat.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. And as you can see, we strategized, so we put the two shiny gentlemen on the ends of the table, shining a spotlight on the conversation we are. So I want to start off by asking you about today, because we've talked about the past.
Okay.
How challenging is it to be a journalist, a senior news editor, and to get news out that is free from fake news, that is on the right track, and also that embodies that spirit of patriotism that we've been talking about?
Okay, it's quite challenging. It's because one thing about social media, they don't need to verify, so they're faster than you. Plus, if you're writing about fake news, you can do it like that, and then it will take us a minimum 1 hour to verify or unverify that story. So it is very challenging. Where technically every minute we have to be alert.
Right. So we're going to serve you some tea because it's going to be a hot seat today for you, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if this particular brew is going to cool you down, but it's something that Ying picked out, so I hope you enjoy it. As we move into the new era, of course, the age of opinion news has become very popular. I mean, CNN probably started out with the likes of Don Lemon, and his ilk. There's a lot of opinion journalists where they actually insert their own bias into the story. What do you think of such news pieces and such news commentary?
Okay, in terms of bias, technically it can't be helped actually, because the journalists, they're human, they will have their biasness. So it's up to the editor actually. The editor must look at the column and then they must see, is it balanced? The main point about writing a piece is you must give the point of view of the other side and also the other side. So as long as it's balanced, it should be okay. It cannot be just one opinion, meaning you're just pushing one agenda. So it's the job of the, first of all, the columnist, but then also it's the editor. They look at it, okay, no, no go, yes, can. So yes, it's very challenging.
Right, so how much of the journalist's opinion can go into the piece? Or should the journalist even have an opinion?
Okay, it depends actually. Okay, there is, just say you are writing about an issue. Okay, if just say you are a columnist, just say like, for example, I'm a columnist, there are times that I put in my view, but I try not to put in my view because I have a different view that might be what, but I'll try my best actually, but you cannot escape from it because just say you have personal experience, so that is one thing, being a columnist. I think you have leeway to put in your personal view, this is what you experience. But then if you're writing about just say a topic on Merdeka, okay, and then you can't really put in your personal view because you have to be balanced. And then you have to take your personal view, put it at the other side because it's an analysis piece. It's not a personal piece. It's not a opinion piece of your own. So yes, balance.
Thank you, Philip, for those valuable insights into the newsroom. So now we know what goes on and why you share the same hairstyle as me. When we left off, we talked about that sense of revolution. Because your heroes and also some of mine from the past, they had this spirit of revolution and they wanted to change the status quo. So my question to Dr. Manimaran before we took a break was whether or not the current generation of citizen journalists that use social media have the same feeling, and what do you say about that?
First of all, we have to realize that we live in a different generation already. Yes, at one time we have to fight against the colonialism and so on. Even the threats of colonialism is still exists until now. Even we had independence for 67 years, right? So that is the main challenge, to maintain the aspiration. And it's not about aspiration because the current generation may have not felt what the previous generation felt, right? So that is the main, responsibility now. We have to not only to tell the history, so the struggle, but now to tell the next generation what will the struggle will. So I think that is the more important responsibility played by the journalists and the media now.
So if we keep struggling towards a goal, right?
Yes.
What is that goal?
I think we can agree that being a nation is the main goal of our country. Because being a country, yes, we are a country, but being a nation, maybe we're still far from being a nation. And the definition of a nation, I think every one of us may have their own definition of being a nation. So that is the most important part. So I mean the definition, the understanding, so the awareness. So I think we should have that.
Now, recently I was given this very surprising opportunity to host the Mal Hijrah celebration.
Okay.
One of the events that were actually curated on RTM. And in doing some research, I found that there were Mal Hijrah parades back in the day, which were actually attended by non-Muslims who joined their Muslim brothers in the 60s to, celebrate this very special day. But somewhere along the line, I think our unity and integration in terms of not just celebrating each other's special days, but really coming together to embrace it, has kind of fallen by the wayside. Doctor, where has the role of media been in really fostering this unity? Because I know legacy media face the challenges that we mentioned, but nevertheless, we sort of given room to the social media antagonizers and those that have a different opinion to eat into the space. And now they control the narrative. Would you agree?
Actually, as I mentioned earlier, we tend to forget about the root of the origin of our nation. I mean, we say that we have what they call multiracial, multi-ethnicity. These all are, for me, is a uniqueness. It's an asset, it's a strength to way forward. But along the way, when we are become more developed, better country, developing countries, or we focus on economic issues, we forgot about the social issues, the coherence between the country, between the races. We have the uniqueness, we have the strength, the uniqueness. We forgot. There is some media those days. I found that they forgot about to stress the patriotism. One thing is a big chunk. The another one component, the patriotism, the unity, the integrity between race, between race and between ethnic, and between Sabah and Sarawak and Malay Peninsula. We forgot about that. And we can say in newspaper, mainstream newspaper carry the one article here and there, perpaduan and something. But we forgot about other part, what you mentioned about the marriage, that's one thing. Some nowadays people, the youngsters, don't know about the festival, the festivity of other race in our country. That's very sad.
That is true.
Yeah.
Funny you should mention Sabah and Sarawak because I believe that parade is still being carried out in Sabah and Sarawak and attended by a multitude of races and ethnicities because Sabah and Sarawak, they have various communities living together, not just Malay, Chinese and Indian. They have even more races than we do here in Semenanjung. Philip, I want to talk to you about what is lacking in your opinion when it comes to newsrooms around the country. How do we bridge that gap? Because we know social media is fast. That is their advantage. How do we bridge the gap?
Okay, I think the thing with this country is we should embrace our diversity. Malaysia is made up of not only Malay, Indian, Chinese, it's also made up of Kadazan, I'm from Sabah, and then Bidayu, Melanau, Bajau, etc., etc. So one thing I find that the media, the national media, they're very KL based or very Semenanjung based. So they only talk about what you call this, the main races, and then they forget that okay, there's a bigger, larger part of Malaysia which is Sabah and Sarawak in Borneo. So I think we should have more stories about that to introduce people there, and then they will understand their diversity. So I think it's more about writing more about these people. Do not ignore them.
Absolutely.
So we have the right person in our today's forum.
Absolutely. I think this is so true. We often also forget the story of Malaysia because we look at 1957 as that penultimate date that we achieved independence from the British, but only in 1963 did we come together as Malaysia. How did the media play its role in galvanizing that story? Because I think that communication kind of fell by the wayside once again. We only embraced Malaysia Day much later. Philip,
okay, I'll answer your question in terms of politics. Actually, we embraced it when BN needed Sabah and Sarawak to form the government. Then we had Malaysia Day. Once we had Malaysia Day, it highlighted that, oh, there's another part that we didn't know, that Sabah, Sarawak, Singapore and Malaya form Malaysia. Did not join but form Malaysia. So then once we had Malaysia Day, which is September 16 every year, it's a holiday. You all remember it's a holiday.
Since 2009.
Yeah, since 2009. You know that it's a holiday, but you do not know why it's a holiday. The reason it's a holiday is because of Malaysia Day. So it's lucky that something happened politically, and then the government declared it as a public holiday, and then the celebration, we celebrate it, and that's where the media start writing about it. What is Malaysia?
Yes, Singapore, we did mention you too.
In 1965, okay, that's a different story.
So there is a lot of stories that actually exist in our past that may help inform our future. However, I think we shy away from some of them. Your opinion, sir? Do we shy away from some of our stories?
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Why is that, do you think?
Because I believe we have a bigger responsibility to do, right, in bringing up the nation. So I think that is the important part, because we work for the same cause. And to continue to just add on what Philip said just now, the key point here, key word here is respect and tolerance. So I think we know each other. We know how the Indian, how the Sabahan, how the Sarawakian work, and that is Malaysia for me. So if we have this understanding, I think our work will be much more easier.
In popular culture, we have a Mat Kilau. I look forward to a Rentak movie coming up soon.
Oh. Can I add to the...
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, you talk about the past and how we learn from the past. I think one of the greatest movie that is made is the Malaysia team that beat South Korea in 1980. This was the time where Malaysia can still beat a football team. Okay, so it's a really great story, and the Star has covered it through our. We have this thing called Anak-Anak Malaysia. It's a walk, and then we featured the people who became famous: Santokh Singh, Sochin An, James Wong, and Hassan Sani. Just give you an example. This is a Malaysian team where you had Indian, Punjabi, Malay, and then Indian, Chinese,
right.
Sabah, Sabahans.
Right.
And then they worked together as one team to beat the Koreans. That was in 1980 where we qualified for the Olympics, but we didn't go for other reason.
Yeah.
So when we tell that story, it reminds people that this how the country is, was.
Is sad because we should be able to still do that.
Yeah.
But I think we still can do.
Yeah.
Normally we only tell stories that we are no longer divided. But then if you go to Bangsa, you will see Indian, Chinese or whatever, or even if you go to Sabah, it's the whole races actually. So sometimes the media or social media talk too much about the negative part of we be not Malaysian. But actually if you check my friends, yeah,
We
I
have plenty.
Malaysian friends.
We have plenty of stories, good success stories in terms of unity, patriotism. Sometimes we forgot to bring continuously. Again, we must continuously, it's a lifelong process, lifelong learning. We need to give them the lesson, the good lesson that we learn from them, a lot of things. But unfortunately, we are divided by, the Rakyat is divided by a group of politicians that have a self-interest.
Wow, this is a completely different topic, which
Yeah.
we will address soon.
Yes.
I look forward to having that conversation, but I want to end by asking each of you for your roles that you will play as media practitioners moving forward in galvanizing the spirit of patriotism in the best way that you can think of. Ahmad,
For me, myself, I have the responsibility, especially to my students, to my future students, for them to think that this nation is theirs, right? Then they have the responsibility to bring this nation better from another day to another day. So I think that is my main responsibility. Then I think I will give my 100%, more than 100%, just to bring back the spirit, right? So this nation is for them to maintain. So I think this is their country.
Absolutely.
So where else to go?
Doctor?
I have two things. One is in my area, my neighbors are Malays. We have a Chinese group here. We feel that we need to respect each other. We need to wish them. Everyone must wish them when they have the festivity must wish them. So that will bring together. I was recently elected as one of the committee member of our association club Rukun Tetangga. So I told them this year we must have for MERDEKA, we must have one special program for our taman. Then continuously to have, so that will bring, we are not talking only during these what they call MERDEKA months, that will bring the society. We have 200 families there.
Right.
That 200 families can come together, they will give a good contribution towards long-term.
So we've heard academia, we've heard from the community. What about from media in general?
Okay, for me, it's quite simple actually. What the media should do is they should go on the ground. When you go on the ground, you hear the real story. I give you this example. Just say you have a racial conflict. And then normally, the racial conflict is started by politicians actually. So when you go to social media, the noise you hear is started by the politician. But then, for example, like for me, just say we have X racial conflict, real story, but I just don't want to name that particular incident. So when you listen, it looks scary, you know, it's as if Malaysia will be burning with racial conflict. But then when I just go on the ground, I talk to my nasi lemak seller. You know what the nasi lemak seller wants, or even the Grab driver, when I'm sitting there talking to him, he's different race from me. It's actually very simple. What Malaysians want is, they just want to make a living. They just want to live. They actually do not care about that conflict or this conflict. All they want is make a living. They want to live harmoniously. That's all actually. So sometimes the thing that you listen on social media or even in the media, it's very negative and it's showing the wrong picture. So the best is always to go on the ground. Talk to the makcik, talk to this uncle, kopitiam uncle, or even to the Grab driver. So go on the ground.
Yeah. Philip, that's so amazing. I wish more Malaysians would do that, because sometimes when you hear a story, it's already broke, it's already gone in so many different directions, but it's the role and responsibility of media practitioners like what you mentioned, to bring people back to the ground and take a look at actually what's going on and understand those basic bread and butter issues. Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you, Doctor. And thank you, Ahmad, for joining us in conversation on Talk to Terrence. And as promised, we're not going to end with a TikTok special. Today, we're going to take a look at jazz music, and we're going to pair that with the beautiful scenes that Johnson has recorded on his cameras. Some of them are truly breathtaking, and they're all about Malaysia. Thank you for joining me on Talk to Terrence. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Follow us on all our socials at Talk to Terrence on TikTok and Instagram. We'll see you next week.
In the sky, 'cause in the sky full of stars, I think I saw you. You're a sky full of stars. I wanna die in your arms. Oh, 'cause you get light.